and welcome to another edition of Broad Mind, where we explore the minds of writers, authors, and beyond. I'm your host, T.L. Rodquitz. Today's guest is Jan Johnson. She has been a dance teacher, process-oriented body worker, and dream interpreter for over 22 years. Jan assists clients in processing their life journeys through the use of process acupressure, craniosacral therapy, energy balancing, and dream work. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you, Tracy.
I'd like to ask you, when did you first start to love writing? Like what age?
Well, I loved writing as a child. I loved reading and memorizing the word. And as I got older, I wrote a lot of poetry along the years. But really, my main focus was dance. So I was much more, I was in a different kind of energy. And wasn't really thinking about writing until I had a psychic reading.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And that was in the 1990s when the New Age movement had really hit. And everybody was buying crystals and reading books on channeling and all that kind of stuff and going to psychics. And I joined up with a group of friends who were meditating. And one of them had been to a psychic. So I signed up and went to talk to him, Carl Hewitt, very well known at the time in Connecticut. And he, in the middle of his reading, he stopped and he said, oh, you're typing something. Oh, you're writing a book. And I almost fell off my chair. I mean, I thought that's ridiculous. You know, I dance and now I'm doing body work, I'm doing massage. I'm not a writer. What is he talking about? But as the years went on, everything else that he said was absolutely on target. So I took that idea about writing a book and I put it up on a shelf, somewhere, just, hidden away there for a while. And in 2002, I found myself in front of a brand new computer and I was looking at my dreams because I was collecting my dreams at the time. Had been for quite a while. I was teaching a dream class and I was trying to organize them in different file folders, different types of dreams. And all of a sudden it came to me, this is what I'm going to write about. So I started collecting the dreams that really meant the most to me, and I put them on the computer and I started writing a story around it. I thought I'm going to tell people about dreams, what they're about and how they've helped me to go through my life and guided me. So I started doing that, and then as I continued the process of doing it, I realized that dreams for me were about guiding me through really challenging times and taking me toward healing. And in order to do that healing and to explain it to people, I had to talk about the wounding. So in order to talk about the wounding, I realized I was writing a memoir, not a dream book.
Wow.
And then all the questions came up that come up for a writer writing a memoir. Who's going to read this? What are my family going to say? I've got these secrets I'm revealing. So all of that came up for me. And, but at the same time, a door opened and I just started to write. I think your question about when the writing really started, when I started to love writing, was probably when I started writing down my dreams.
Wow.
Because that's when I really learned about speaking through the word. I had always been speaking through the body and never really worked on the level of speaking through the word. So I wasn't really prepared to be writing anything that was going to be published. And that was my process, learning. There was a 10-year period of learning to be a writer, to become a writer.
Wow. Interesting.
But the seed was planted by this psychic, and then I started writing and realizing that I needed to be writing a memoir. And then I started pouring material. When you start writing about your life, you're writing everything you can. I had like 300 pages.
Wow.
And didn't know what to do with it. And I have 3 sisters, really wonderful, loving sisters, that were going to be affected by my writing things about my father that I believed to be true, that they may not. I'd never spoken to them about what I felt had been going on. So the next step for me was to run off copies of these 300 pages of material and hand them to my sisters. And they took the material, and a month later we had a family meeting, and we sat down, and two of my sisters made it very clear that they didn't agree with what I was saying that I experienced with my dad. But they were completely loving and compassionate about supporting my process. They knew I had something that needed to come out. And they could see that this book was about more than just writing something. It was about something deep and passionate inside of me that needed to be processed. It needed to be spoken. It needed to be accepted. And thank God for my family, because they allowed me to put it out there and keep it growing, and they have supported me every inch of the way.
And say writing is definitely sometimes people's therapy too.
Yes.
Now, even if you're writing fiction, you're still channeling your emotions, I would say.
Yes.
I've done it myself plenty of times. So it's just my way of speaking through the characters, whatever. Did you try to use fictional characters, like the names or something, to hide who they
Yes.
were for real?
Yes. I went through that whole thing. Should it be a fiction?
Yeah.
But because it's about dreams, and dreams are real, and they are the dreams that I've put in the book are magical. And if I put it in the format of a fantasy, then they wouldn't be magical anymore. It'd be another thing made up.
Yeah.
And because they came at certain times and spoke in certain ways that were very, very meaningful to me and to us as a sisterhood, and I was writing about my sisters. It is a story of sisters. And I just had to do that. I had to put it out as a memoir, and so I did. There were only 2 people in the book who have their actual names in there. Everyone else has been changed. Places have been changed. Yeah.
Well, since we're on the subject of like dreams, I wanted to ask you, and also you're into dance too.
Yes.
So the question is, usually write what you know. Do you feel that's true?
Yes.
So like, instead of writing about dancing, you wrote about dreams.
I wrote about my spiritual process and how it unfolded once I started remembering my dreams. When I was a child, I had one dream that I remembered. We all of the girls slept in an attic. It was a huge attic in a Georgian home. And it had half-wall partitions, and we all could see over the partitions. And I had a dream that I would take a pillow off of my bed and stand at the top of the stairs, jump on it like a magic carpet, and fly down the stairs. And I got to the bottom of the stairs and stopped. That was the only dream I ever remembered.
Wow.
So when in 1980, I went through a divorce. My mother died. I had to close my dance school and sell my home that we had just built. And there was a lot of grief and loss that I was dealing with. So I decided to go get some help with it and talk to somebody. And I went to a holistic counselor. And she was wonderful. I went in and she gave me a cup of tea. And the first thing she said to me was, "Jan, what have you been dreaming?" And I said, "Well, I don't dream." And she said, "Of course you do. We all dream every night. You just don't remember them." And I was stunned, because 1 week before that, someone else had said exactly the same thing, word for word. This is when I started to realize that there's synchronicity in life. And certain things happen, and you feel it in your gut, and you just know you have to follow it.
Yes.
So when she said that, she suggested a book, The Dream Game by Anne Faraday, and a little paperback. And I bought a tiny little journal, because no non-dreamer would need anything larger than that, right? Tiny little dream journal. So I took them home, and I read the first chapter of the book. I held an intention to remember the dream, and I went to sleep. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up and ran downstairs to go to the bathroom. I turned on the light, and I remembered my dream. And I ran back upstairs, and I grabbed my journal, and I was like, getting back to the bathroom so I could sit down and write it down. And the very first dream as an adult that I remembered came through. And it was very short. It was just one line. And it was, everybody keeps going faster and faster, and I keep trying to slow myself down. And that was a premonitional dream about what I needed to do. After that, within the next 5 years, I was meditating, I was doing inner work, process work, which turned out to be my life's work. And so that was the first dream, but after that, I couldn't stop them. I'd wake up 3 times in a night, and the dreams were still coming. I had to stop reading Anne Faraday's book and start sleeping.
Yeah.
But from then on, dreams became my life, really, my life's work, and I share it today with all of my clients. It's part of what I do in my work.
Like I said, you know, I've had plenty of dreams, you know, like probably most other authors and everything. But the thing is, sometimes you process them different at different times or whatever, or like you're sleeping and you think, I gotta write it, but then you just totally lose it as soon as you get to that journal. It's like, it's gone.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And it's amazing if you can remember it in some way or other. You know, like you're saying, I don't know if you remembered it like word for word or every scene that went on in your head for it, but
it's always different.
Yeah, it's always different. Always.
Yeah. I was at a dream workshop with my dream teacher, Robert Moss, who's nationally known, best-selling author. He's
I've heard him.
Amazing.
Yeah,
he's awesome. And I was at a workshop with him dancing with the bear. And I wanted to have a really good dream, you know, that night.
Yeah.
And he sent us off singing a chant, and I went to sleep and woke up and in the middle of the night to hit the bathroom, and I did not remember my dream. I didn't remember anything. And I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
And he teaches us to just stay where you are, don't get up. And I had to get up, but I put the blanket over my head, and I just curled up again, and I just breathed into it and went back into that space in between wake and sleep. And I heard a knock, knock, knock on the door. And the door opened, and the whole dream came back. And it's one of my most amazing dreams ever. And so it does require the intention to remember, the intention to recall. And that often that helps. Not always, but often if we can just take a moment and go back in, you'll remember them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about your typewriter, you know, that you went back to your typewriter in 2002. How long was it until you realized that you wanted to publish a book in its entirety?
Right away. As soon as I started writing, I knew this was my goal. How it got there was the next step.
I was going to say, how did your story evolve into what it became 260 pages later?
Well, yeah. Well, I started, I was working on someone, the synchronicity just started happening for me. Once I talked to my sisters and they gave me the go-ahead, I was working on a woman who came in for a session, Nancy Moore, and she was leaving, and I said, how's everything going? I said, oh, great, I'm writing a book, and I'm really excited about it. She said, well, when it's ready, hand it to me, and I'll look at it. And I thought, what is she talking about? Look at it. You know, she's going to, you know, just give me some feedback. And I found out that she is an editor, and she's edited many Yale professors' books and publications, and she's amazing. And she just came through my door and became a very good friend and became my editor. So she took the material with her, and 2 weeks later brought it back. And she put it down, and there was red pen all over. The whole first chapter was covered in red pen, and then nothing. And she was very upset. She said, I'm really sorry, Jan, but I can't get past the first couple of chapters. Like, I just can't get into this. So this is what I'm saying about becoming the writer. So I said, well, okay, you know, that's okay. She just didn't know what to do. And I said, well, you know, something happens, Nancy, on the 5th chapter. Everything shifts. And all of a sudden, it's a flowing. I could tell that, but I didn't know why. And of course, I was dumping all my history in the first 4 chapters, and it was just yuck. So she said, well, Jan, start with chapter 5. And I suppose many authors, new authors, who weren't really writers might say, forget it. I'm done with this. But I got excited about that. And she gave me 3 things, you know. She said, you know, show me, don't tell me. You know, all the simple editing 101 things. Don't use the same word over and over.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was a samurai. I started cutting. I wasn't afraid. I kept a separate file and put everything I was cutting in that file, so I wasn't throwing it away. And I just kept working it until I could give it to her, and it was quite a while. But I took every hint that she gave me, I incorporated it, and when I handed it back to her, she was able to edit beginning to end, and that was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I have to tell you, you know that the editor is the #1 person. I mean, without that, I never could have done this without her. And Rita Reale came into my life through Kappa.
We know Rita.
We know Rita, and we met up through a Kappa workshop, and she stepped into the position of proofreading my final draft. After Nancy had penned it, I rewrote it, gave it to Rita. Now, Rita was different. I had gotten to the point, this is a 10-year process, so I'd gotten to the point where Rita was very excited about my verbiage, and she just loved my writing. So I knew I had arrived at that place where it was interesting to read. And she went through the whole proofreading process with me, and it was set to go. And would you know that Nancy came back into my life. She walked back through the door for a session, and she said, "How's everything, Jan?" And I said, "Good. My book is ready to go." She said, "Well, do me a favor. Do me a favor," because she had done the first really edit, and she wanted to okay it before it went. I said, "Okay." I gave it back to her, and she took it, and then called me a month later to go out to lunch. She took the manuscript out and put it on the table, and I could see red pen.
Wow. Yeah.
So then I said, "Do I do this again, or do I just say, look, it's ready to go, I'm just going to send it, or do I go back in and do I look again?" And I went back in and I looked again, and I'm grateful I did, because what I have put out is something that is easy to read. It's clear. It's like taking photographs, like Instagram. Just taking photographs of different points in my life. It's very deep writing, and it's but it's light and easy to read. So I'm very pleased with it and proud of it. But it was a very long undertaking.
Wow.
And a lot of editing, and that's how I became a writer.
Awesome. I want to ask you, how long did it take you from beginning to end to get the book done? And did you have any writer's block?
Oh my. Took me 10 years from the time I sat down at the computer. It was 2002 to 2012. And no, I don't think there was ever writer's block.
Wow.
Because I was always being...
You're lucky.
I had so much I had to get out, I suppose. At the beginning, it all spilled. And then once it was there, it was just, how do I put this in a way where people are going to understand it? And so it was no writer's block on that piece, no.
Yeah. I think people who don't understand writing sometimes, they think that writers just come up with a story and just write it. I mean, just from beginning to end. Or sometimes you're told, well, write like for 10 minutes or something like that.
Yes.
Sometimes you can't do that. It's just when the muse calls you, you do it. And then there's sometimes you get a little stuck or whatever. That's why I said about writer's block, but you're very much lucky. Because I mean, it took me 5 years to figure out my second novel, and it was because of a character problem that I had with it.
Yes, I do understand that,
Yeah.
because it happens to me in my latest project, which is a musical.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Right, so no big jump there.
No. Yeah.
No. And I'm not a musician, so but I come from a musical family, and I'm writing all the lyrics, and I've written most of the storyline.
Oh, nice.
I'm looking
That's
for
tough.
Yeah,
That's
but
very, very tough.
But well, yes. I mean, there are days when I get up and I'm in the shower and I have to run, and grab a pen, without even a towel to get the words down. And there are other times where I'm sitting, and nothing comes up.
Yeah.
And I have to honor those days and just know that it's okay, it's percolating. And then when it does come through, I have to open up the time and get it down. That's just the way it comes through.
Let me just say, you were probably one of the most disciplined guests I've ever had.
Serious?
For writing.
Seriously?
I mean, just write down what you have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep
never
a
hear
pad
that.
in
It's
the
just,
car. I keep pads everywhere and pens.
Oh, God bless you.
But
I don't know how you
has
do it. I don't know how you do it. I couldn't. It's just when it happens, it happens. But usually, it's like a late night thing, and I start writing till like 3 a.m. in the morning. But it's tough.
I think
Even
it's
when-
come. I think it's come from my discipline with dreams,
Yeah.
because I know if I don't grab
that's
the
true.
dream at
Yeah.
that moment,
Yeah.
it's lost, as we
Yeah.
said. So this is how I do it, and I honestly do. Morning in the shower is the best time,
Wow.
and I just go like, "Get out of my way, cats! I got to get to the the pad and the pen."
Well, I was going to say you've kind of trained your brain after like what I said, 22 years of doing it. You start to
Yes.
kind of figure out your method
Yes.
of how things come about. I mean, some of us have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks, and it's like it's not happening.
Right. Right.
But like I said, you're so disciplined in what you do. I'd like to ask you, with all your discipline and the dreams and everything, who is your audience? Who do you hope to reach out to read your book?
For this book, my audience is certainly women, and we all dream, so men have bought my book as well. But usually when I'm at book fairs and such, that's who I will approach. And I have written 3 children's books. That,
Oh, wow, nice.
I've illustrated 2 of them, but they're not out, they haven't been published yet. They're still in the works. So I would like to create a dreaming society.
Oh,
I'd like
nice.
to talk to children, I like to talk to adults, I like to talk to women and men. I speak to people everywhere in the supermarket, and I speak to them when they're on my table. I'm doing body work. And all of them come to me with dreams.
Wow.
So sometimes they'll ask me on the table what's up with the dreams. So, but anytime I'm talking to people about dreams, then I talk about the book.
Yeah.
It's an extension of really what I do.
I just remembered something. I actually met you at a holistic fair
Yes, you did.
at In the Loop.
Yes,
Really
you
was.
did.
So it was meant
That's
to
where
be.
we first
See, there you
met.
go.
That's right, Tracy. Yeah.
Maybe it was a premonition for what was to come.
As a
You being
premonitional
as-
dream. That's exactly what
You
it was.
as a guest.
Well,
on
it
my
was a
show.
waking dream, because everything's a
Yes.
waking dream.
Yes, a lot of things are. With all this wonderful talk about dreams and everything, do you think you could read a little bit about one of those dreams?
I would love to. What I really would love to read to you is the very first dream, because it came from chapter 5. That was the turning point in the book, and it ends up being the opening page of the book. So I would love to share that, because it really sets the stage for the rest of the book, and you'll understand what the whole book's about. Chapter 1, The Bird Shooting Game. In the cool shadows of a city, I'm pushing my way into a crowd of spectators. A game is about to begin, and I am taking my place up front. Thunderous cheering heightens our excitement as a virile man struts to the center of our circle. He raises a polished rifle for all to see. He gets one shot, a voice whispers, as a caged bird is rolled in. Silence takes over. The marksman shoulders his weapon, taking aim a few inches above the door of the cage. Carefully, he calculates where to rest the point of his rifle. I realize as he holds steady, he's aiming at me. Collapsing into suddenly cold hands that press against my chest, I can barely utter no. My legs have folded under me into a backward shuffling, but the tightly interlocked group resists. There is nowhere to hide. The bird is set free. The shot is fired. The feathered body falls at my feet. Amid deafening applause, the tiny sparrow tries to right itself. I'm amazed. It's still alive. No one seems to notice the struggling or the woman who has stepped forward. She lightly touches her hand, to a trembling wing. And I ask her, do they put these wounded birds to sleep? Do they let them die? Or do they try to heal them? I was 38 when I awoke from this dream. It haunted me. I knew I was the bird, and the injury had been unavoidable. Wounding doesn't always happen in extreme or obvious ways, but it does happen to all of us. In the most perfect families, words and actions, whether intentional or not, can inflict suffering. Feelings form beliefs. What we believe to be true becomes our reality. The bird shooting game offered up the blueprint of a spiritual opportunity. My ambitious desire to heal that wounded bird, supported by intense studies of my nightly dreams, evolved into this account of my life's journey.
Wow. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I love the rhythm of your words, too.
Thank you,
Absolutely
Tracy.
fantastic. Well, we've run out of time for today, but I'd like to thank Jan Johnson for being on the show.
Thank you, Tracy. It's my pleasure.
And we can find your book on
www.onwingsofdreams.com.
I'd like to thank our audience, and I am your host, T.L. Ratkowitz. Until then.